Hello and welcome to Re-enthused. Today we are taking a look at another handheld, and this time it's this. Ooh, focus. The Tiger Game.com. Now, this one has been covered quite a bit, but I figured we would talk about it because it's a relatively interesting machine, but mostly because it was just so absolutely pointless, really. Now, the Game.com was made by Tiger Electronics, well known for their rather crappy single game games, handheld games, the LCD ones, and they released it in 1997. It has about a 3.5-inch black and white, or in fact monochrome screen with 4 shades, mono audio with 4 audio channels, and it is powered by a Sharp SM8521 CPU. Now, these specs were kind of obviously designed to compete with Nintendo's Game Boy, and that's would have been fantastic because it's it's got a lot going for it. The screen is a touch screen, as you can see. There's a little stylus down here. It's obviously for its time a capacitive touchscreen, so you have to push in to do it. So, it had some features that would compete with the Game Boy. Unfortunately, this was released about 10 years after the Game Boy. So, yeah, it kind of missed the boat. In fact, just a little while after this was released, the Game Boy Color got released, which was a, well, not necessarily superior, but certainly better handheld than this one. The screen, in fact, is probably one thing we can get back to, and you'll see it later on when we make an attempt at getting some of the game pictures on, which may or may not be successful. But it lacks any kind of lights. There's no backlight or front light on it, which means you're relying on the mirroring and reflection effect of LCD, which is never great, and it is a machine where you have to struggle to find a good mix of contrast and lighting to get a good picture out of it. But anyway, so it's the .com thing. Obviously, it's a very internet-based name, and the reason for that is this original model, and we'll talk about that in a minute, has this port here, which if we take it off, you see there's a little knobble there, and you could buy a 14.4 kilobit modem, which could connect to the internet. So that's where that name came from. Didn't really go very far on that. It was released for this original model, again, released for about $70, and was discontinued in the year 2000 after selling less than 300,000 units. Now, I say the original model. There was also another model in 1999. They released the Pocket Pro, which was smaller than this, and that was sold for $30, but didn't really do anything for the success of the actual IP. So it is a proper cartridge-based system. If we look on this side, you'll see there are 2 cartridge ports, so you could put 2 games in at once, which was a fairly novel feature. And they do have labels on the ends, which is really nice. Something I like. Now, Tiger were expecting to release about 50 games not long after the machine came out. In reality, in total, they only released around 20 odd. There are some region-specific ones, so that number can change. But I mean, these are the cartridges. They had several licenses. A lot of the licenses were carryovers from some of the stuff they did with the single-use games, the LCD games. So games like Batman and the Indy 500 games, they were basically legacy licenses. They just made a slightly more advanced game of, and they were slightly more advanced. This wasn't by any means an entirely terrible machine. Let's turn it around the right way again. It just wasn't great for its time. If it had been released, probably even 6 or 7 years earlier, then it might have been slightly better. But 10 years after the original Game Boy, and not that much better. That's not really going to cut it. So let's turn this on. So we get a little bit of speech. We see some of the abilities of that 4-channel sound system, so a bit of sample speech. So if we try to let's try to zoom in. Yeah, as always, unfortunately, it's a different ratio to what my camera will capture, obviously, because of the time difference in when these two things were made. So there you go. That's the home screen. Let's just take this out so you can see a couple of things here. So obviously there's a few quality of life products, I guess we say. So calculators and such like, and calendars and things, and phone books. There's a built-in game which is Solitaire, and then if we click up here, this takes us to the actual cartridge menu, and you can see it's got the two cartridges that are plugged in there. So if we just click on Batman, get a nice little animation of the cartridge going in, which, you know, the cartridge is already in, but hey, that's not so there you go. So again, and you can kind of see, you see the square boxes on the screen there. So that's the touchscreen matrix. So yeah, it's not exactly accurate, right? And so you can see the menus popped up. So over here, you can't quite see it. Well, you can actually, better actually on the camera than I can see it on the screen. So if we hit start, we'll get a bit more. You can use the A button here. Just carry on. So we get to choose what weapons we're taking with us. That'll do. Let's go. Alright. So, yeah, you'll see it's quite big. quite big sprites, really. Like I said, it wasn't awful. It just, yeah, was way after when it should have come out. The animation is quite fluid, although, say, you're getting a slightly better image than I'm actually getting on the actual screen. But it's all a bit slow and a bit lackluster. So we can hit the menu button, and that will allow us to exit the game. So there we go. And again, yeah, we can go into Cartridge Menu, and we can choose the other game. So Lights Out was the usual pack-in title. Later games had Batman and Lights Out, later boxes. So Lights Out is just a very, very simple puzzle game. Really hard to see on the screen, especially upside down. Right, so yeah, so if we just start the game by hitting start. So the idea is quite simply to knock all the lights out. So yeah, obviously there's lots of games that do that's similar to this, include things like Reverse Eye and stuff. So yeah, so that's the game. It's not particularly impressive, but hey, it came with the machine. So I guess we'll put in a couple more games just to see them. Right, let's go here then. So two moderately well-known games. Certainly this one over here is very well-known. It's indeed a license of Resident Evil. And Fight of Megamix will be quite well-known if you're a bit of a Sega fan. So let's go to Resident Evil, which is, although it's called Resident Evil 2, it's not really. It's a very cut-down and simplistic version. Let's just go. Right, so basically yeah, so we just have zombies walking at us. It's all very slow. Again, quite big sprites though, but yeah. This is basically it. You can walk around, but again, it kind of feels almost like the legacy of the old single screen LCD titles. So yeah, very simplistic gameplay. There's not really much to it. We can kind of walk into the screen. And it is tank controls as well. So they did decide to take the worst part of Resident Evil and include that. So yeah, that's basically that. We'll have a quick look at Fighters Megamix just so you can see what it's like to play a fighting game on a screen that is very, very blurry and indistinct. I am going to be able to see it a lot better on the camera though. Right, so here is Fighters Megamix. This one is so indistinct that I had to play with the autofocus on my camera because it wouldn't pick up the fact that it was looking at something. Right, so we'll go with one player mode and yeah, just carry on. So again, it's a very, well, it's a fighting game. So it's never going to be that much complexity to it, but it's still a little bit. It actually looks, it really does look a lot better on the screen. But again, it's not, you know, it's not. Really hard to play like this. But anyway, yeah. So it's not the most complex of fighting games. So it's probably something that could have been done on one of those LCD games. But yeah, if you look at the actual screen, there's quite a lot of blurring and stuff as well. So it does make it a bit indistinct. But yeah, you go. That's the that's the Game.com playing games. Right, let's just turn it off for now. And put this back away. I mean, that's basically the machine. Get this in the right way. There we go. It clicks into place when it's in the right way. Yeah, so that's the Game.com. I think the only things I didn't show is on the side here. You can see there's a volume and the contrast dials. They don't do a huge amount. And the back where the COM port is, there's also an external DC power supply. Yeah, uses 4 AA batteries. The later Pocket Pro only used 2. The battery life is fairly good on them as well. Not too bad anyway. There's a headphone socket on the bottom. But yes, that is the Game.com, a machine that was, I guess, an inevitable evolution of what Tiger were doing, but came out at incredibly the wrong time. They basically released a Game Boy competitor just as Game Boy were finally moving on to bigger and better technology. Not hugely bigger and better, but certainly better. I mean, if you look at the other machines that were out at the time as well, they weren't doing as well, but they existed. So things like the Game Gear and the Atari Lynx were at least in existence. And in Japan, obviously the NEC TurboGrafx or PC Engine Express were available, and yeah, this machine just wasn't an exciting prospect. It was relatively cheap for what it was, but not cheap enough that it was worth buying it over anything else. So yeah, that's the Game.com. I personally don't think they're worth buying even for collecting. There's something just not very compelling about them. Obviously I own one because I just have a tendency to buy everything out there. I brought a few of the games just to try them out, but they're all very cut down experiences compared to other things, and yeah, just not compelling. I probably wouldn't buy any more of them unless I've got them really cheap. So yeah, not one I'd recommend. Bit of a weird duck when it came out, and not especially like niche or cult now. So I mean, it kind of fits in the same arena as things like the Mega Duck and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, interesting in its own right, but not interesting enough. Okay. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like. If you really enjoyed the video, please hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the video or you have something else to say, then please leave it in the comments below. See you next time.